of recession are growing, showing up in the stock market.
GDP, first look, first quarter, is a nasty minus 1.4.
Gas prices, shocking drivers at the pump.
People can't afford to pay their bills.
Inflation is much too high.
A recession is when your neighbor loses his job.
If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
The most important thing to remember is not to panic. We've helped our clients through this before, and we're going to get through it again.
Everyone, regardless of your stage in life, is impacted by recession. With the proper plan, we're going to get through this together. Welcome back to this edition of the Recession Survival Guide. I'm Scott Bishop.
And I'm Michael Smith. Scott, last time we talked about early career stages and what to do, but now we're getting to that kind of that midlife career and starting to have a family. It's no longer just about you. You may have kids, you may have gotten married, and all these things. So things have definitely changed, and probably the size of things. The emergency fund we recommend to somebody early in the career, maybe 3 to 6 months, but maybe now that we've got a family and kids, how does that emergency fund maybe change?
Well, it's really different, and there's different emotional things when it's not just you have to worry about. It may be a spouse, it may be children, it may be young children, or it can even be slightly older children within a few years of college. Some type of recession, whether it be the market decline on savings, whether it be a worry about a job that we talked about in prior editions based on the Layoff Survival Guide, all of those things can be difficult. But right now, at this point in life, you're balancing different financial planning concepts. It could be your retirement plan versus saving for college. Exactly. It could be, we've really put it off too long, honey. We need to get wills and we need to talk about our estate planning. There's different things you need to figure out. And with the recession, with different things, you need to prioritize all these different needs. It does go back to make sure you have the emergency fund, which may be larger, but you may have additional resources. Maybe you already have a savings account. Maybe you have a 401k with 5 or 6 figures into it, maybe a little bit bigger. Once you have those resources, it means different things for different people. But you need to make sure your family's taken care of. You need to make sure that if you don't have a regular paycheck coming in, you're going to be okay in your house. If the kids are close to being in college, you've already talked about those different things. And many times we're still spending too much. Even if we try to be good savers, we have that lifestyle creep as the family gets bigger, our paycheck goes up. With a recession, sometimes it's really nice to be able to prioritize that spending and maybe cut out some of that fat.
Well, I think this is definitely a time in life that, maybe you had some back of the napkin basic plan before, but this is the time where getting a professional financial plan, putting things in place, having that budget as we talked about, and really identifying those discretionary and non-discretionary expenses, that become really important as you move through this stage, because that can get away from you very quickly. What are some other things, if you have a family, if you're starting a family, what are some other things that you should be looking at?
Well, if you haven't done so already, it's really important. There's always things that are important, and there are things that are urgent. And it seems like many times urgent trumps important. Urgent is, it's summer, we need to go on a trip. And one of the things I always say is people spend many times more time planning for their summer vacation than they do for their financial plan, sure, their retirement plan. But I think it's a really good time to start looking at, am I putting enough money away for retirement versus am I putting enough money away for college? Which is more urgent? I always tell people you can take out a loan for college if your credit's good. You can't take out a loan for retirement. It doesn't work that way. So having that balance is good. But one of the more important things that never seems urgent until it's too urgent is getting your estate plan in order. Things like having wills, making sure that your spouse will be able to take care of your children in terms of guardianships, maybe making sure that the wealth passes to them, knowing how that's going to work, making sure there's maybe enough wealth. If you have a gap in your plan because you're not ready to retire, perhaps you need to take a look at getting some life insurance in place. You always have the health emergency, a car accident, a health event. You hear about people that even, God forbid, have heart attacks or strokes young in life. What if you can't work? Having disability insurance. Those things many times are available through your employer. We're getting to the time of year, we're getting through August, September, many times October to December is a really good time to take a look. If you're with a larger company or a mid-sized company, you get those benefits re-enrollment. Maybe it's time to sit down with your spouse and take a fresh look at those things. Do we maybe need to up the life insurance? Do we maybe need to make sure we're getting not accidental death and dismemberment insurance, but true disability insurance? See how those types of things work. And if you're in really good health, you could take a look at maybe getting some personal term life insurance or other types of life insurance, things that may be more portable if we're in a recession, you find yourself having to change jobs, either on your own because you want to, or inadvertently because your job was eliminated.
Yeah, do you get to keep those things? Well, you know, Scott, in this particular stage as well, one of your largest assets could potentially be your home. So this is the time in life you're either transitioning, maybe from an apartment, you're considering buying a home or renting. What would you say to consider in that stage, buying versus renting? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think when you're buying a house, a lot of people, their house is their biggest asset. And a lot of people probably overspend in a house. I always see your personal home, since it's not generating income and it may be appreciating, but that goes up and that goes down in many cases. So you shouldn't see that as your biggest asset that you want to sell for retirement, but you do want to have a place where you can grow your family, grow your kids, be in a healthy neighborhood, make sure the schools are good there. And the one thing you maybe not want to have to do is, if you're starting to have job stresses or financial stress because of a recession, depending on your financial resources, that may not be a great time to be looking at changing and moving. It may be very hard to get a loan if you don't have a job, or your job's in stress, or the economy's in stress. So if we're worried about a recession, or we think maybe a deeper recession is coming, it might be time to right size your home. And that could either be downsizing, because you can barely afford paycheck to paycheck what you're doing, or maybe it's time to find the right place that you want to be. But you really have to take a look at the cost of ownership. Many times in life when you're doing financial planning, it's A or B, or A and B, depending on how expensive on your future goals those different types of choices may be. Again, all those things are important. You need to balance lifestyle and what I can afford with what would happen if things went sideways due to a recession.
Well, and also, Scott, this is probably a perfect time. You're, at the point in your life, the age in your life, you really need to look forward and analyze, am I where I want to be? Is this the career I want to be in? I met somebody not too long ago that went through law school, many, many years of school, lots of costs, lots of debt, and decided, I don't want to be a lawyer. And it could be anything, but this is the time that you want to reevaluate and look and say, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life, and potentially make that change?
At this stage in life, whether it be before recession happens to making sure you're in the job you want, or maybe on the other side of this recession, it may be, we aren't quite where we want. You can only cut so much fat. And eventually you might want to try to grow the income. I did that early in my career. I realized I was in a job. I was a CPA. I was going to have a finite amount of counting, a finite amount of income that I can earn in that direction that I was going in my career. And I decided to go back and invest in myself. I went back and got my MBA. I went back and actually changed careers, took a career risk, and actually got into a place that was much financially more beneficial for my family. But again, those types of things, if we're worried about income, if we're worried about expenses, sit down with your spouse, sit down with your teenage or older children, and have those decisions. Family, to be able to get where we need to go, these are some changes we need to make. We need to maybe change expenses. We need to change careers. There may be risks along with this, but sit down with your family and make sure you buy in, because the last thing you want to do during difficult times like a recession or a job change is to actually change, have your family not understand, and that would actually bring significant stress to you. These economic ups and downs can already bring tremendous stress to a family. Lack of communication can make it very difficult.
Well, seeing how stable your career is through a recession, that gives you some good sense of, am I going to be able to go forward with this? What happens during the next recession? Many times people find out their career or the job that they're in right now isn't very stable during recessions, and that forces them to change.
Or even the industry you're in. Sometimes
Exactly.
different sectors of the
Yes.
economy are more apt to be hurt by recession, where other areas may be better. As an example, if you aren't sure about your job doing something, maybe you should become a nurse, or something that maybe has a little bit of resistance. Maybe if you're married, one of the spouses could have a job that's more secure in a recession, so you don't lose all of your family benefits, like health insurance, because of a business failure.
Well, thanks, Scott. That clears up a lot, and a lot of good advice.
I think that's really good. And I think what we maybe need to do next time is talk about what happens as you're getting nearer to or entering retirement. I think that'll be a great topic for our next podcast.
Sounds great. See you then.
See you then.